Hey sis,
Hey,
am I echoing again?
I never heard an echo before.
Yeah, sounds like it. Hold on, let me see if I need to do another.
Okay, because I need a minute to fix this anyway.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. I'm about to go. Give me 1 second, Cassandra. We just trying to get Tanya back on here and going. 1 second. Yeah, Corey, I came in kind of late because I wanted to eat first, and I don't. It takes me almost 2 hours to get home from the courthouse, and we don't get out of court until 5 o'clock. She said, I feel like Latoya, that is hilarious. You good, Tanya? Is my cousin on here?
I still hear an echo. Um, Everybody in the chat, do I sound like I'm echoing or a
Does
robot?
Tanya sound like she's echoing you guys? Because I don't hear it. Does she sound like she's echoing? Okay, I'm finna mute. See?
I do. Okay.
See, some people say yes. Over here, no. Because my niece said no.
All right. So you go ahead and start, and I'll figure out how to fix this.
Okay. All right, you guys. So, wait. Today was the cross examination. Um,
Oh, they said I don't sound like I'm echoing when you're muted.
okay. I don't know how to fix that. Okay, so when you getting ready to speak, I'll just mute.
Cool. Or I'll figure it out on my end.
Who the hell was on the stand? Oh, Lisa. Duh. I'm like, who was on the stand that she had to cross it down? Okay, so today, it was Bonjean's turn to cross examine Lisa Van Allen. But before court started, they they had somebody said turn your background off. The government wanted to raise some issues. One was regarding the witness. They wanted to let us know that she had expressed to law enforcement that she was not coming to court. The agents did have to go and pick her up in order to convince her to stay and testify. They said that the government will cross-examine her again after her testimony was done with Bonjean, and that they just like reassured her that it's almost over, she's almost done, and so she'll be going back home. Then they wanted to address the pictures that was shown to her yesterday, and they wanted to ask questions about who she had seen at the courthouse in 2008, because they was basically trying to what they was trying to establish is that Durham McDavid was more than just Rob's accountant or his manager. He showed up at court every single day for him. So it was like they had a different type of relationship. The judge, the defense says that there's no purpose for those photos. There's no need to put photos into evidence, and you have the defendant sitting right at the table. She's already identified him. And she can't really say for a fact that that he was at court every day and she's seen him every day. And basically they were saying that the government wanted to establish the fact that they were together at most of the trial, but so let me see. Go to the next part. Give me a second. Understand that the judge he sided with the defense on that. So then when she did come in, when they brought her in, Jennifer started off by saying, I understand that you didn't want to join us today. And she said, oh no. She said, no, the agents didn't have to come and get you. And she said, well, I just been here all week. I'm exhausted. And she said, I never said that I wasn't coming. I said I didn't want to come. That's two different things. They said, oh, when she was saying that she didn't want to come, Jennifer had mentioned you wouldn't have came unless you got the lift from the agents. And she said, well, that's who's been bringing me all week, so I don't know what you mean. She asked her, you testified that you were an extra in the Home Alone video. She said, yes. You went to that shoot as a fan? Yes. She said, you liked his music? Yes. Then they began to show her, just her, a short clip of the video to see if she recognizes herself in there. When she finished, she said, yes. Do you recognize Kelly? Yes. She said, is that how he appeared to look the day you met him? Yes. Then they started asking to publish the video so it can be public and be made so the jury can see it. And there was an objection. The government said that they didn't see the relevance in showing this to the jury. It was sustained. So they did show us the beginning part, probably like a minute and 45 seconds of the Home Alone video. And they asked her again, do you recognize yourself? And she says yes. She was the one that was dressed in a jumpsuit with the blonde hair. They said you testified yesterday that the shoot happened in August of 1998. And she said, yes, that's when it was shot. They said, well, in fact, it was shot in September. And she said, oh, well, I'm not sure. They said, you remember the Homeland Security coming to you and informing you that the shoot was in September? I don't remember. I just remember them saying, I remember them telling me that the shoot was after my birthday. She said, I never said it was 1997. I said I was 17, which would make it 98 because I was 17 in half of 1998. You said that Blackie approached you and that's how you met Rob. Yes. He asked you your age. Yes. You said you were 17. Yes. I thought I was. You've been saying you were 17 for quite a while now. So, and she said, what's your question? She said, well, my question yesterday is the first time you actually told the truth about your age. Jennifer then repeated that. And she didn't say anything. She said, what did you tell him about your age? And she said, well, I don't remember. She asked her the question again in a different way. And then she just kept saying, I don't remember. And she said, you were trying to mislead him, weren't you? And she said, definitely not. And they said, you knew how old you were. She said, that's the same question. I said, I don't remember. They began to talk over each other, and to the point the judge had to stop them and um, tell them to stop because the court reporter was having a hard time. And so that's when Jennifer said, you knew how old you were. And she said, I don't remember. So she said, so you said he asked about your mother. Yes. Did you tell him that you had left home? Wait, why would you need to ask your mother if you had left home? Did you tell him that? She says no. And she said, because I was staying at home. I was home. She said that she moved with her aunt, and then she eventually moved back home by the time she was 17. And Jennifer had said, well, haven't you been saying that you was homeless around this time? And she said, well, no, I didn't say that. What I said was if my aunt wasn't at home, I couldn't get in until she came home. That's what I meant. Okay, so then they said, well, you're accompanied to his tour bus and you had sex there. She said, yes. And you stuck around after that. Yes. She said, that's why I'm only in one scene, because I stayed on the bus. She said, and then he came back, you guys exchanged numbers and you continued to talk to him. She said, yes. She said, okay, well, I'm not going to repeat all the places where you told people that you were 17 for this entire time. But at some point, you began cooperating with the 2008 prosecution. You recall them coming to interview you in Georgia the very first time? Yes, but I don't remember the date. She said, do you remember who? She said, yes, but not the particular names. You gave a statement to them that you met him at a video shoot in late 1997. She said, yeah, I did, but I eventually corrected that. When did you realize that it was actually 1998 that you met him? She said, I'm not sure. She said, I didn't get to research it before I talked to them. She said, so you think that you had to research your answers? You shouldn't have to research it if it's the truth. She said, well, why would I do all that math when I'm trying to tell the truth? And then Bonjean says, because the people's lives are on the line and you shouldn't be lying under oath anyway. And she said, well, that trial wasn't about me. And then she said, okay, but what it was about, a child you sexually abused, though. And then Lisa says, yeah, through R. Kelly. And she said, but you said she was 16 and you admitted to sleeping with her when you were 18. She started crying all over again, and she started going off about that. And in the midst of that, and I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but in the midst of her crying and trying to go off and explain why she slept with her, she said she thought that Jane was 17 at the time that she slept with her. She said, I had friends back then that was 16, 17, and 18. They gave her a few minutes to compose herself, and then we moved on. Jennifer kept saying, are you okay now? Are you all right? Are you okay? She said, would you agree, when you went to Chicago to meet R. Kelly, you wouldn't have needed a fake ID? She said, I'm not sure. They said, you're not sure. But what would you need a fake ID for? If you were already 18. And then that's when she said, you know what, I did it. I used a fake ID. I used a family member's fake ID before I did that. I admit that. She said, okay, but do you remember what you used it for? And she didn't answer that. And they said, why would you use someone else's ID when you had your own? And then she says, I don't understand what you're getting at. She said, you could travel with your own ID, correct? Of course, if you have one. So you're saying now that you didn't have one. No, I'm not saying I didn't. Someone may not have one. So are you saying you wouldn't need anyone to give you you are you saying you wouldn't need anyone to give you a fake ID to travel? Um, you would need someone to give you a fake ID to travel. Lisa says it depends on the situation. And then Jennifer said, well, most people don't need fake IDs. And then Jennifer said, I'm sorry, Lisa says you're right. Can you think of a reason why you might need a fake ID? And then she says, well, I don't understand. I don't understand your question. There was an objection, and then Jennifer just said, okay, I'll move on from that. She basically proved what she was saying. You told the agent that 1 month after meeting Kelly, Brown got you a fake ID. Did you not? I don't remember that. Which Brown are you talking about? Because I know two Browns. Well, yeah, we know you know two Browns. One is one that you have a baby by, your son, correct? We'll get to him later. You falsely told agents that Brown got you this ID. No, I don't recall. So you were basically at that time when you told the agents that Brown got you that fake ID, you were suggesting that they were sex trafficking. I didn't suggest anything. You don't know that if they are supplying fake IDs to 17-year-olds and having sex with them, that's sex trafficking. I never suggested anything. I don't even know what you're talking about. So then they start to talk about the video footage. You would agree Robert was about 31 years old. In which video? The one that we looked at together today. She said, I didn't look at a video today. And then Jennifer said, we didn't just sit here and look at this Home Alone video, the entire court. And she said, yes. Well, I thought you were talking about a sex video. She said, I'll let you know when we're talking about a sex video. So when you came to Chicago, you actually came around 1999. She says, no, I came in 1998. You told prosecutors that you traveled in early 1999. I'm sorry, in early 1998. Not sure because I thought I was 17. You stated that you met Rob in late 97. Yes. So we established that it's been a full year later. No, it wasn't. But the video was in September of 98. Yeah, but you just said that was a full year later. And then Jennifer tells her, well, if you say you met him in 1997, in late 1997, and then you're saying you did the video shoot in September, I'm sorry, if you're saying that you went to see him in 97 at the video shoot, and then you went a few months later, it would have been almost a year. There was an objection. The judge asked the question over to her since she wasn't understanding Jennifer. She answered. Jennifer went on to say, you agree that you met in late 98? She said, no. August isn't late in the year. She said, that's correct. But the video was shot in September, not August. And then Lisa says, well, you're right then. She said, well, Robert was there too. They asked, and you were there, right? And she said, and Robert was there too. Jennifer says, okay, well, I'm not about to go back and forth with you. The government then asks, the government then says that they will keep on objecting to Jennifer's questioning. Jennifer says, well, I'm gonna move on because we'll be here all night fighting. And then Lisa says, well, I don't want to fight with you. So then they give her a copy of her statement, and they ask her to read it to herself. She takes a minute, she reads it to herself, and then they come back and say, so we can agree that at least sometime in November, Sony had informed them, which is the agents, that the video was actually shot in September. They then informed you. Don't remember. So you don't think that September is late? And she said, I think September is the fall. So then she went back to that other question that she couldn't answer before. She said, so saying it was roughly a year difference from what you told the state's attorney. And then Lisa says, roughly. So if the math adds up, you were in Chicago early 1999. No, because I was going off the weather. No, I don't know, because I was going off the weather, not the dates. So then Jennifer's asking questions, and then Lisa continued to talk over her. Jennifer says, you told the state's attorney that you met Rob in late 1997 and went to Chicago early 1998. He says, I don't remember that, but if it's there, then that's what I said. You testified under oath at the R. Kelly trial that this is consistent with what you testified to is consistent with this timeline. She said early 98, I guess. After your first trip to Chicago, you made several trips. She said a couple. You didn't move to Chicago until the summer of you didn't move to Chicago in the summer of 1999. I'm not sure when. Who paid for those expenses? Rob did. You were asked about your relationship and you said it was sex. This was yesterday. She says, I don't remember. She said, well, if it was just sexual, she said, wasn't he very good to you? Wasn't he really nice and stuff? She said, well, wasn't it real? She said, well, we had our good times. She said, you even said at times Rob was a little bit immature and things like that. She said, yep. You travel with him a lot. Yes. You went on tour with him? Yes. You actually performed on his tours. You were brought on stage to perform a certain a scene. You know how he acted out and brought the girls in. So she was pulled out from the audience and came up on the stage doing a particular scene. And she said, yes. Every performance on that tour? Yes. And you were in other videos with him? Yes. The I Wish video? Yes. So then they show her the I Wish video. She recognized the video. She says she's the one that's braiding his hair. Then they turned and they published a video and they allowed the courtroom to see it. Yesterday you were asked if the relationship was exclusive. She said yes, for me it was. Since she said once I moved there, it was for me. She said, but you knew that he wasn't. She said, yeah, sometime after I moved there. She said, but why would you think that he was to begin with when he was married? She said, well, no, I didn't know that. I didn't know about his wife until one of the runners had said your wife was on the phone. And then Jennifer says, but in reality, you wasn't exclusive either. She said, not after I found that out. You were actually sleeping with Keith after that fact. You were actually sleeping with Keith. She said, well, after that, you said you couldn't talk to guys, but you got really close to the group talent. She said, yes, I did. You didn't think that they would tell? She said, no, because they were like, she said that they hung out a lot and they were good friends, and then they were hungry and she was feeding them, so she wasn't worried about them telling Rob. Jennifer said, so who paid that bill? She says, I don't know. She said, on my receipt, it said Bass Productions. And Jennifer says, and who owns that? She says, I don't know. Obviously, Rob does. You said Rob had hit you a few times. She said, yes, a few. Then she says, but at that same time, you were actually in another abusive relationship with someone else. And then she says, well, what do you mean? And then they asked for a sidebar. So when they came back, I guess that line of questioning, they had to, if it was an objection or whatever, it was sustained, so they had to move on from that. She said you went back to the ATL and you were no longer in a relationship with Rob. Yes. Because you were in a relationship with Damon Pryor. Yes. That's who you had your first child with, Mr. Pryor. Yes. He became abusive to you. Yes. And in order to get away from that, you actually went back to Kelly. Yes. You had threesomes with R. Kelly? Yes. How many? How many could you say? Can't even put a number to it, huh? She said yes. At least 10 because you identified at least 10 women that that you had a threesome with? She said, yes. It was around somewhere around there. You said, you said that you didn't want to. And she said, yes, I did. I didn't want to have to share him. So yesterday, she said, just to recap, she said that she didn't want him to have the videos, because that's just something that she didn't want to do. She didn't want to have the threesomes. Today she says, yes, she didn't want to do the threesomes because she didn't want to have to share him. And then she goes on to say, further commentary, well, what woman wants to share? Would you want to share your man? And Jennifer was like, and like laughed it off and like, okay, I'm moving on. And so she says, yesterday you said that you did it because he wanted you to. Yes. And she said, well, he asked me to have his first. He said that he had never had a threesome before, and he asked me to have the first one with me. We were in LA. She said she didn't remember what year it was. She says then they had a threesome with Jane, but she actually at that time said her real name, so that's going to be redacted. So you lived in Chicago while you were in LA? And she said she wasn't sure at that time. You testified that you did that because you testified back then that you did that because you said that you felt bad for him because he had been molested by his sister. He had been molested as a child by his sister. She said, yeah, I said that. And she says, and if she says, okay, if it says it on there, then that's just what it is. She said, yeah, that's what you said, because in fact, I'm going to show it to you. So that's different from what you're saying today and what you said back then. So she showed it to her, which was the March the 7th, 2019 statement. She's reading over that. So now they're saying, so 2008 was something different, 2019 something different, and yesterday something different. You testified in 2008 that you met Jane about a year after meeting Kelly. She says, I don't remember. I just know it was a long time ago. You said it was the first time you had met her, right? I don't remember. You said that he told you that she was 16. She said yes. And then Jennifer says, are you sure she wasn't 16? She said, all I know is that he told me that she was. But you're positive based on your timeline, when you were introduced, you're sure she wasn't already 16. She said, well, I'm pretty sure. So Jennifer continues, but if she was 16, that would mean you would have been like 20, being that she was born in 80 and Jane was born in what, 84, 85? And she said, no, not if she wasn't really 16. Okay. So, okay, we're going to go back to that. Jennifer told her if she was 16 when you met her, then that means you would have been 20. Because all of this time, she has been saying Jane was 6. Rob told her Jane was 16 and she was 18 at the time. That would mean y'all 2 years apart. But they're not 2 years apart. They're 4 or 5 years apart. So if she was 16, you guys get what I'm saying? That's how she caught up. She's like, if she was 16, then that would have made you 20 years old. You still wouldn't be sitting here telling us that you were 18 at that time because it wouldn't have made sense. So then she says, you said you left him in 2001, but you really meant you just left Chicago. She said, yeah, it was either Florida or Chicago. Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures of yourself with Kelly. So she starts to show her the pictures. The first one was pics of the woman's threat video. And it was her and Rob there was the picture of her sitting on Rob's lap. She said that occurred in 2000 is what you testified to, that picture or that video. Yes. Jennifer says, but are you aware that video actually happened in 2002? She said, well, I thought it was 2000. She said, because I was living with him at that time. And if it was 2002, then I would have had my daughter, because she was born in July of 2002. So I would have had to been pregnant in that picture. So no, I don't think that was 2002. So then they started showing her another photo. It was her and her two cousins. They asked, when was this taken? She said 2000 or 2001. And Jennifer says, you see your shirt? She says yes, because she's wearing that TP2.com shirt. She said this picture was at his vacation home that you shared with him in Florida. And she said, could be. There was some people coming into my row, you guys. So I had to stop. I had to stop writing right then, so I didn't catch the last part of that. So we'll go to the next one. So then they showed another picture, and it was her on his tour bus. Is this mainly how you travel with him when you travel? She said yes. Do you remember when this was? And she said, well, it was probably around the same time, 2000, 2001. Showing more pictures of her and someone named Alina. And she said, when was this taken? This was taken around 2000, 2001. It was at a mall in Florida. They asked, was Lena romantic with Rob? Yes. Did you guys have threesomes? She said sometimes, but Lena wasn't always around like that. So you said you left him in 2001, but the relationship continued to about 2007. Yes. Okay. Then they talked a little bit more about what she testified to yesterday. Did you take more than one video? She asked. No. You just wanted a tape of you. She said, yeah, well, I'm not really sure, but I just know I just wanted the tapes for me. There was nothing, I wasn't looking for nothing specific to Jane. And she says, well, you remember talking to Vlad and you had told them that you started looking through random videos and you took one. You only took one, not sure. But you said you weren't looking for that one in particular, anyone in particular. She said, no, just any of them with me in them. She said, but you took that one when you were in multiple videos, but that was the only one that you took. And then, so what they were saying was, okay, so they was going through the Vlad interview. And she said in there, I did not want the one I was in. Oh, she said it wasn't just, she was upset because it wasn't just that she wanted the ones back that she was with another woman, but she pretty much wanted all of the videos that she was in back. And this is when what we were talking about yesterday when it comes to impeaching the testimony. So if she asks a simple question and they can prove, they can actually impeach that actual question. They don't have to wait until the testimony's done to actually impeach it. They can do it during the testimony. So I found that out because they did speak about that today. It says that you claim that you found the VHS tape in a bag with scenes of Rob plus Jane. And they began describing those scenes once again, and she says yes. They said, but in fact, neither of those scenes was on that tape. And she says, no, they are. Have you seen a tape with all three? She said yes. So the tape with the threesome is the only scene on that tape that you had. She said no. And she said, Jennifer saying, well, that's what you said in 2008, that you never seen a tape with Rob and Jane. She said, well, I explained what I meant. I explained that to them. They said, Jennifer said, if you seen that when you worked, She said, well, if you had seen him on a tape with Jane when you were working with them in 2008, wouldn't you have told them about the two scenes that was with Jane? And she said, well, I'm pretty sure that we did talk about that. I'm pretty sure we did. They said, you didn't tell them anything at all. She said, I did. Let's look at the statement. It doesn't, and she says, okay, but it doesn't mean that I didn't tell them. And then there was an objection to that, and then the judge sustained it, so they moved on. The prosecution, I'm sorry, they were prosecuting him for child pornography, correct? They started showing her statement again. Nothing in there mentions that there were two other scenes of Rob and Jane. And she says, well, I don't know what you're trying to get at. She said they only questioned me about a threesome, so that's all I told them about. They didn't ask me about anything with her. And so Jennifer said, so they didn't ask you any questions that would have made you want to bring up there's two other scenes on this tape that has Rob and this girl. But she said no, because I didn't have the tape. Then they began reading the statement again. She read it to herself. So you said you seen a tape that only contained a threesome here, nothing else. Then she says, that's correct. So thank you. No. So after all of that, she ended up saying that's correct. Okay, so then we took a break. After that break, Jennifer came back and said, okay, so after you took the tape, you sent it to Keith. Yes. You said it's to show. Did you tell him that it shows you in child porn? Yes. You've testified that Keith's a trusted friend of yours. Yes. So you're saying you took the tape around 1999 and 2000. I don't know the exact day or around the time. So you and Keith were still on good terms. Yes. Is this before or after the Rolex? Is this before or after the Rolex? She said that she actually stole the Rolex when Rob came to Georgia. You were in a relationship with Pryor at that same exact time, correct? And Kelly. Yes. Did you get a Rolex to Pryor? Yes. Didn't you tell Keith that Rolex was worth $100,000? And she said, well, I don't recall. Was it Keith or Pryor that pawned it? She said, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure Pryor pawned it because he had it. So you never expected to get any money from that. She said, I had no motivation to get any money from nobody. I took it because he left it in the room. So he did try to pawn it. She said, I don't think he went to the pawn shop. I think he went to someone else to sell it. So you're saying your motivation had nothing to do with money. I just took it. Did you give it to him as a gift? No, I just gave it to him. Also, you stole money from Robert before, and you sent that to Keith too. I never sent Keith any money. When you sent that VHS, how did you send it? She said UPS or FedEx, and you told him that it was a threesome on there. She said yes, and he knew it was Jane. You learned eventually that he made copies. She said, well, I found that out after we took the lie detector test and he didn't pass. Did you give Charles a copy, which is Chuck? She says no. Did you find out Keith gave him a copy? She said, well, that's what I messaged him on Facebook for, because those are the questions that I was asking him if Chuck had a copy of the tape. So they say you're no longer with Pryor, correct? And when you were no longer with Pryor, you were still seeing Rob. Yes. They said, as a matter of fact, Rob sent you out he spent most holidays with you at his house. Yes. He even helped you out financially still, to send you money for your bills and things. Yes. And then you found out Chuck and Chalucci, somebody named Chalucci, wanted to get the tape. And she says, they were kind of going back and forth with this part too, you guys. But she said she didn't. Chalucci was one of Chuck's friends, and she really didn't know him. He wasn't an acquaintance of hers. So then they ended up saying, Jennifer said, I'm sorry, you knew Kimora Lee Simmons was interested in buying that video, right? She says Kimora Lee had hosted a show and she wanted to buy it. She said, well, yeah, Keith told me that. Did you say, like, when Keith told you that, did you tell him, like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would Kimora Lee want to purchase child pornography? And then she said no, because it didn't. She said, I didn't say that because it wasn't. It was a. You didn't. Oh, okay. She says you didn't say that because there was no. It was a tape. Of You didn't say that because it wasn't a tape of child pornography. It was just robbing another woman. And she said no, the reason why she didn't say that to him is because she wasn't concerned with that. She was more concerned with just getting it back. You told Ewell Brown that you recorded a threesome. Yes. And he asked you for Rob's phone number. Yes. Did he tell you why? No. And I didn't even question it. Why not? She said, why would I? She said, why would I have to question? He was my boyfriend. She said, but I didn't think that he would call him without me or anything. He told R. Kelly that he had that sex tape. Yes. But it wasn't true. But it wasn't true because you didn't have it. Yes, Keith had it. You came to Chicago. You didn't go to the police about the tape. No. And this is about 2006, 2007. And you knew that he was on trial. No. She said that's not the reason. I still cared for him and I didn't want to cause him any harm. So that's why she didn't go to the police in 2006 or 2007 about the tape. Yesterday you said, oh, okay. She said Yulebound wasn't crazy enough to try to extort Rob. And she said, Jennifer says the person is crazy enough to have an AK-47. And she said, no, he's not. It wasn't his AK-47. That's why he got off. When the police came, they found the guns in the attic, but it wasn't ours. So that's why he got off. So Jennifer says, but you still took the video from the same guy that you now need to help you get the video back, from your so-called trusted friend. And she said yes. And she said, because I had found out that he was trying to shop it and I knew where I could probably get it back. So she said my goal was to not let it get out. And he says, so you gave it, Jennifer, I'm sorry, says, so you gave it to someone else for 6 years? And Lisa says, well, he did well with it at first. So you just go around trusting people who receive stolen property. And I'm sorry, I didn't write down her response, but I'm pretty sure it was something like, yeah, had to be. Okay, so you said you came to the city and Rob had offered you $250,000. Yes. But you didn't think that you should get it back. but you didn't think that you should get it back. And when you were in Georgia? No. You never asked about the money. You never asked for money. No, I didn't. But all along it was all about money. She says no. Why would he offer you $250,000 to get it back if you say you needed him to get it back? Why would he offer you $250,000 if you were coming to him to help you get the video back? And then Lisa says, well, why would he sleep with minors? Okay, so Bonjean says, okay, you don't have to keep saying that. We already know what you're trying to put out there. We know what you're trying to do. We know what your reasons are. So after the $250,000 convo, You never spoke to him again, correct? She said, yeah, because they had threatened my life and I didn't want to have to deal with him no more. At some point, you told Keith that you had been able to secure the bag. And she said, no, I never said anything about securing the bag. She said, I just told him what my conversation with Rob was about. I told him that he needed to come to Chicago and bring the tape. I said nothing about securing a bag. You came to Chicago, and that's when you learned that he made a copy. Yes. Did that upset you? Yes. In fact, that's the real reason you were upset. She said, no, I was upset because I was threatened. Didn't you tell Keith if he made a copy, you wouldn't get paid? No, I don't recall telling him that. But that's what upset you. Because why come all the way there if he had made copies and you weren't getting your money? So they said in late 2018, you reached out to Keith. You reached out to Keith first. She said, not sure. I'm not sure. And for what? I don't know what you're talking about. Are you saying that I reached out to him to say hello? Are you saying that I reached out to him to talk about the tape? I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know who reached out to who first. And that's how she was going, back and forth. So I don't know what you're talking about. And so Jennifer says, is he related to you by marriage? And she says, why would I have slept with him if he's related to me through marriage? Is he not involved with anyone in your family? She says, no. So then Jennifer starts looking through the messages, which is the Facebook messages. You turned these Facebook, she says, I turned those Facebook messages into to the agents. And Jennifer says, yeah, well, he turned in some too. And she said, yeah, well, that's good because I have nothing to hide. So then they showed her Facebook page, and on October the 24th, 2018, she started a text message where she's telling him, hey, talking to Keith, did I ever tell you why I was crying in the car that day? And this is 2018, and it's talking about something that's supposed to took place in 2007. Did I ever tell you why I was crying in the car that day? And he says no. And then she says, Daryl McDavid said that he should have murked me from the beginning. And she says, that's when you told him that. She said, well, yeah, I hadn't spoken to him for a while. So, and then Jennifer said, so the first time you talked to him, which is years later, you want to talk about something that you should have told him when you was with him? So you don't tell your trusted friend right then that somebody just threatened your life? And she says no. But you said that you told it to June Brown right then. But you didn't see that when he seen you crying. But you waited years to tell your trusted friend. So then she goes on, in the Facebook messages, you say Rob would have been under the jail, saying that 14-year-old pussy. She said, yeah, I felt betrayed. You never made a copy of this. This is what she's asking Keith in the messages. You never made a copy to nobody? And he's saying, Chuck said he still got it. Call him. And then she asked for his phone number. So basically, I wrote down the point Jennifer was trying to make. So Jennifer is trying to make the point that she couldn't, tell her friend, but she told Brown. She says the reason why she didn't tell her friend is because she was hysterical, but still not hysterical enough to tell Brown, but not tell Keith. Can you recall, this is also part of the message. She says to Keith, can you call the lady from the documentary to verify the tape and tell him that you seen me crying and etc.? And he says, no, you crazy. I'm not getting involved in that and none of that. And she says, but you are involved. And he said, no, I wasn't. And then She asked, "What's Chuck's Facebook page or IG?" Or, "My fiance ain't cool with me sitting on the phone with men, but you should understand that because I wouldn't want him sitting on the phone with other women." And then she started asking, she asked him a question, he didn't respond, and then he came back and said, "Oh, my bad. I was busy. I didn't write that part down. I'm going off memory now, you guys." And so then she says, "Well, I need you to verify who you're speaking to. Is this really key?" So she started asking him, "Tell me something that only both of us would know. Give me something that only us will know the answer to." Um, and then she asked, "Does Chuck still have a tape still?" And then Keith tells her, "Call Chuck." And Jennifer tells her, did you realize that Chuck didn't even have a tape with a threesome?" She said, "Well, I found that out later." "You don't trust Chuck." She said, "Well, I don't know him well enough. He's just an associate." Um, "When was the last time you talked to him?" She said, when I thought he had the tape. Not sure when it was that I actually talked to him." So then they show her a picture, a picture of her and Alina. They were by that fountain in 2002. "You actually reached out to Alina with a plan on how to extort Rob." And she says, "Why would I do that?" And they show her another exhibit of it was her plan, her message to Alina to extort money back in 2002. She says, "No, I didn't do that." So Jennifer said, so if we asked her, she wouldn't say that. And she said, "Well, if she did say it, it wouldn't be true." And then Jennifer said, "Okay, nothing further." And then Lisa told her, "Good." And they said some words back and forth to each other. And then there was a redirect because remember, part of her, the agents, they said in the beginning, the agents had to promise her that the government will redirect to help her feel better about her testimony, is what I'm going to say. So go back over what she said. So the government asked, so when you were asked if you were 17, you were asked if you were 17 or 18. Yes. Have you testified about your age before? Yes. In June 2nd, 2002, and they started to show her the statement of what she said. "You remember being asked what year that you thought you met Rob?" She said no. They read the statement. In that transcript that she's reading, she says that she actually met Rob in late 97, early 98. So how did you come to realize the year wasn't 97? It was 98. She says that the government had brought it to her attention after they had seen a contract, I guess it was a Sony, and realized that it was actually 98. How old were you in 1997? 17. In Cook County, you were asked if you had a chance to view the tapes. And the reason why you had said that you hadn't viewed the tapes at one place and then you did is because you hadn't actually seen it until a week prior to your testimony. They had actually showed it to you in their office. She said she had only seen the tape with the threesome there, the three scenes, not a tape with just Jane and Rob, because she had testified she had not seen a tape with just Jane and Rob. She seen a tape with the threesome. So she's saying what she meant was, I didn't see a tape with just them. I seen a tape with them and our threesome. So then they said, "Okay, you remember being asked about Kelly's wife, Drea? We went over all that yesterday testimony." She said yes. And then now it became a big issue in the courtroom because the government actually started reading her impeachment transcripts from the 2008 trial. So even though those her testimony then was impeached, they brought it in to basically just try to show that whatever she was testifying to in court now is the same things that she had said back in 2008. Jennifer was so upset that Jennifer had threatened to go get the judge from there and bring him into the courtroom. Um, and then this judge ended up signing with the government about a certain part being related to the impeachment. I put in here all counsels are arguing back and forth. Um, they're telling the defense is saying that her testimony in 2008 is not responsive. The judge ended up telling them, no, you don't need to read it. And then the judge tells them, you don't need to read that. We're fine. And so then the government says, okay, well, I'll summarize it. And they said, who was on the tape? Who was on that tape? And she says, Jane, Robin, and me. Yesterday, you were questioning about meetings with the Durham McDavid at the hotel. Yes. You didn't meet at a hotel. You met at an office. Then there was an objection on the defense objected. Okay. Well, you told the jury that you met in 2008. You met with Durham McDavid. Yes. You also told them that you got directions from the attorney, not Durham McDavid, in 2008. Yes. She told them. She also says they also say that she told them in 2008 that she was forced to make a video statement. They started arguing again about that, and then it was regarding reading the impeachment statement. The judge, it was an objection. The judge sustained it. You made statements a couple of months prior to the 2008 trial, um, as well. She said yes. You didn't have a book deal back in 2008, did you? No. And you didn't go on TV in 2008. No. Were your emotions real in this courtroom yesterday? Were your emotions fake in this courtroom yesterday? And she says no. And then they say nothing further. So the next witness, I'm gonna skip over that, you guys. Just because this was just Deborah Rosenblatt. She was employed and she owned the Preferred Travel Agency. Her business had started in the 90s. She was Rob's travel agent for like 17, 18 years. So that's pretty much who they went through to book anything that was related to travel, which was cars, hotels, planes, and trains. Um, Let me see. Basically, what they call her in here for was to show the contracts, the authorization forms for all the times that Keith Murrell and Lisa Van Allen had came into Chicago and that they stayed at these hotels. It basically They're basically just showing the dates and they showing the amount of when they came in, and then they go and they show like Durham McDavid's or Donnie Lau's credit card statement, and they're just matching it, doing the comparison and matching that. Um, at the same time, they were staying at that hotel. There was a charge for that same price for that hotel on Durham McDavid's credit card statement. So that's basically everything that she had testified to. And she also said that she had only spoke with Rob one time throughout the 17 years. Well, besides the time she was introduced to him, which was short, she spoke with him one time. She was at a concert and he made a joke about her seat. So that was the only time. And then the government asked her. So then they just asked those basic questions that I just went over. And then Ashley cross-examined her and said what I just told you, that she only spoke. That was her whole point. She literally asked her 5 questions. And then the last one was, anybody can make these charges. Anybody can do that, right? Anybody can call and set it up and put it in the names. And then she pretty much said, well, yeah, you can say it's for this person and this person is who's calling. So, yeah. And then she just showed that Lisa Van Allen on her charges, her authorization form, it says that they can charge for all expenses. So when she stayed at the hotel, she was able to order room service. if the incidentals, all of that was covered on the credit card. So then when McDavid attorney cross-examined her, he said it's not uncommon for entertainers to have other people handle their accounts for them. No. How would it happen? Someone would either call her or someone would email to set it up. Some of the reservations were covered by Donnie. She said yes, actually most of them was covered by Donnie Lyle. You don't know if Daryl McDavid saw these invoices, do you? She said, I don't know. She said none of these were made by Daryl McDavid or in Daryl McDavid's name. She said no. There's no indication that Daryl McDavid even asked to make these reservations. And she said no. Are there any reservations for the Sheraton Hotel? And she said no. And then Daryl McDavid's attorney said because one of the government witnesses testified that they came and stayed at the Sheraton Hotel. She said, well, if someone testified to that and it's not in these records, then I'm pretty sure it's not true. And then they said, well, no further question. And Brown's attorney, all she really said basically was, we're looking at 7 pages and you probably gave the government thousands of pages of transactions and bookings and stuff like that you had to make on behalf of this client. And she said yes. They also stressed that the date that's on the report may not actually be the date that they called in to make the reservation. For example, if they called in on the Thursday, they may wait 2 days to set the reservation. On that reservation is going to be the date that they waited to set it at. So the dates will be a little bit off. So the next witness they brought in was Jerome Kemp. It's still a government witness because the government's still up. They also stated that they had called the witness out of order because of what did they say? I forgot what it was. It was a scheduling issue. Yeah, because of scheduling issues. He said he's self-employed. He has a full business. He graduated high school. He did an apprenticeship at Columbia Records. And Columbia Records is actually a smaller record label under Sony Records. And Sony Records is also in the building that he worked out of was in Rolling Meadows, and Epic Records was also in that building. He was hired by Cynthia Johnson. Cynthia Johnson was, I believe, a family member. Not a family member or a friend close to the family. So it was a paid position for him. He received his checks. They asked if he received his checks through Columbia. He said no. Was there an interview for this job? No. He mostly just mailed out records to make sure they had got paid. They asked again if he graduated high school. Yes, he went to college. He said he worked at Columbia until he actually got an internship at Sony. Excuse me. He said the difference from working with Columbia to working at Sony is because when he worked at Columbia, he was basically Johnson's like personal assistant. He worked directly with her. That's what I said. Yeah, Sony is with Columbia. Columbia is under Sony's umbrella. He says he worked with Johnson basically as a personal assistant, and with when he did the internship instead of the apprenticeship, he had many bosses, so he reported to different people at there. He said Johnson eventually had reached out to him for another job. It was managing like the Midwest and the New York parts of Columbia, and it was mentoring, and he still did mentoring, and he still did help him with get the records played at the station. His job was called regional promotional manager. They said, "Did you know Tracy?" He said yes. He met her in the summer of 1999. He said he really don't remember meeting her, but he believed he may have met her. He believes Kathy may have introduced them. There was an objection because speculation. So then he said at the time he met Tracy, he was employed at Columbia. They showed him Exhibit 106, which was a picture of her. He identified her. He said she was probably about 16 or 17 when they met, and she was with Kathy. So he's seen her like bi-weekly. And then they asked, have you seen her outside of the office? He says, at first he said no. Then he said, yes, I seen her at radio stations, other type of events, and I seen her at basketball games. And they said, where were the basketball games at? And he said, at Hoops. It was on West Randolph downtown area, Chicago. Was Rob there? Yes. Do you recall seeing them interact? He said no. Her apprenticeship ended eventually. He said yes. Did you guys keep in contact? Yes. Is she acquaintance? What is she? He said she's like an acquaintance of mine, and the last time I actually seen her was about 7 or 8 years ago. So at this time now, Bonjean is questioning him because the government was done. She said, you were interviewed by Homeland Security. Yes. May 16, 2022. He said, yes, but I kind of feel like it was the summer. But if you say it was that time, then okay. So when you first met her, it was about 2000, 2001. Yes. She was an intern. But now you're saying that you think it was earlier. He said, yeah, because of the artist that I was working with and the videotape that was in the public. And they said the videotape that was in the public, what do you mean? And he said the album, are you talking about the album you did with Jermaine Dupri? And he said, yeah, I'm talking about that. And she said, well, are you aware that didn't come out to 2000? Would it surprise you that album didn't come out to 2001? And he said, yes. And you told us that you met Tracy just now in 1999, but you told the government that it was back in 2001. And he said, yeah, well, things had got a lot clearer now. Things were a lot clearer for him now. And, but your LinkedIn page says that you didn't start working for this company until 2001. So how did you meet Tracy in 99 and you didn't start working until 2001? And he said, well, I'm surprised it even says that. He said, they said, well, you did create your LinkedIn page. And he said, yes, but I don't even use it. And she also asked, are you aware that you can't even work at Columbia until after you're 18 years old? And he said, no, I think you can start working there your junior year. She says, but what you said to the agents is something different than that. And then he says, well, they got it wrong. And then she says, well, Tracy had to be 17, not 16, right? And he says, I don't know. He said, she said, what if I told you that her birthday was August of 82? Would you say now she had to be 17? And he said, correct. When was the last time you spoke to her? He said it was a few months ago. Did you tell her that you were coming here? He says, no. He said, so you didn't discuss anything about you coming here to testify? He says, no. And he said she called him some years ago and said that they had asked for his phone number. And he hasn't talked to her since he had actually spoke with them that first time. She said, so you seen her at Hoops in what year? 90. You said 99. How do you know? He said, I really feel it was 99 because it was early in my career. And my bosses were Tone and Polk. And how long were they your bosses for? They were my bosses for about 4 months. So you saying you know her because of your bosses? No, I'm saying because I went to Hoops. When I went to Hoops and seen her there, they were my bosses. You said you didn't see Rob interacting with her? And he says no. Then Jennifer asks for a sidebar. And then she says, "Have you looked at any videos with Tracy?" And he says, "No." And she said, "Okay, nothing further." And now, what you all been waiting for, the government's next witness, Keith Murrell. He comes in, he's a 45-year-old. He lives in Kansas City, Missouri. He works at a convenience store. In the late 1990s, he was part of the music group Talent. He was the first. The group was first known as Chaos. It's an R&B group. He was a singer. There was four members total. He recalled R. Kelly had a concert in the late 1990s. He didn't go to the concert. He is a fan. They asked, "Do you know R. Kelly's full name?" He said, "Yes, Robert Kelly." After the concert or anything, did you speak to him? And he said no. He said he had a friend by the name of Vanessa that actually went to the concert and had got his phone number, and she had told them that she met him. And he said he was kind of excited because he was like, "Oh, that's R. Kelly. My friend got his phone number." So they asked her for the so he asked her for the phone number, and she gave it to him. They said they called. It went to his voicemail, so they actually sang over the phone. He said someone called them back immediately. He says it was either Blackie or someone else. He couldn't recall. After that call, they were asked to send a video to Rob of them singing. They said, "Did you hear back?" They say yes. Around 97, 98, they had heard back from his cousin Blackie. Maybe it was him. And they said he said we was happy, we was excited because we resent the video. About a week or two later, they were flown out to Chicago. He said they stayed at a hotel in downtown Chicago. An hour after arriving, they had seen Kelly at the hotel. They recorded all their music at Track Studio while they were there. They weren't immediately signed because how it went was Rob told them, "If y'all sing this song and if y'all knock it out the park, I'll sign y'all right away." But I guess that's not what ended up happening. So they said, "Well, why you were in Chicago full time by this time?" "Yes." "Did you see Kelly at Tracks?" He said, "Yes, we seen him probably 5 out of the 7 days a week. We recorded at Track Studio from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. almost every night." Did your name eventually change? Yeah. Rob changed the name. He said he don't recall exactly when, but Rob actually had came up with the name Talent and had changed it. They did end up releasing a single called Celebrity under that name and under his label. So around 2000, 2001 is when he met Lisa. He said she's a friend. They met at the hotel. They did ended up having a sexual relationship. Um, he said he seen Lisa at the hotel almost every day. She was staying there. That's how he knew she was staying there because he had seen her every day. Was she your girlfriend? No. Did she have a boyfriend? He said, "I don't know." Did she have a relationship with Kelly? I believe she had a friendship with him also. We kept that relationship secret because we didn't want anybody to know. And then, can you give me some tissue? I'm sorry. So then he said eventually the group had parted ways. He went back to Kansas City. He said he still spoke with Lisa often. He said the video was delivered to him around the early 2000s. He don't remember to be exact. And I'm going to tell you this witness, y'all. He was good. He said he don't remember to be exact. It was sent to his mother's house because he was living there with her. It was delivered by FedEx or UPS. He said Lisa did send that tape, and she told him she was sending it. Because he told her, you told her you received it. He said I was supposed to just hold on to it, but I watched it right away. And he said he seen Lisa, Robert, and the girl. He didn't recognize the girl or know the girl. He said Lisa's going down on her, and then they both went down on Rob. So it was oral. They said by going down, you mean oral sex? And he says yes. So Rob was on the tape. Yes. Did you watch it alone? Yes. How many people did you show the tape to? Maybe about 4 or 5. He said he showed it to Ernest and Marlon. They were part of the group. A girl named Nicole and Chuck. Um, did you show it to him individually? Yes. And he said he showed it because he was just excited to have the tape. He said because it was Lisa on the tape and then Rob, and it was like a celebrity. Um, and then he said he didn't plan on doing anything with it, and he didn't plan on selling it. Um, she talked. Did she tell you to do something else with it? He says no. Did she give you permission to watch it? No. The chain came with that tape. He says yes. He kept it. It was supposed to be returned to her, but he went to the pawn shop to pawn it for Lisa because she said that she needed to get some money. And he said he didn't want to because he knew that that chain had a lot of value to it and he wouldn't get what it's worth from a pawn shop. So he said he ended up giving it, she insisted, so he ended up giving it to this guy and told the guy to take the chain into the store. He said, but eventually some detectives came in and said that it was stolen. He said at that moment he just left out. He ran out the store. He said he did make copies of the tape, and he said, but he didn't make the copies right away. He waited years to make the copies, so that he technically didn't make the copies until it got to the point where they were going to meet with Daryl McDavid. So they said, okay, well, you were given immunity, right? And he says yes, and then he tells them what exactly does that mean to him in his own words. So in 2007, you still had the tape in your possession. Yes. Did you receive a phone call about the tape? It was a surprise phone call. And he said yes. And it was from Lisa. And they discussed the tape. He said, she said, Daryl McDavid called and said he knew you had the tape, and asked Lisa, how did he know? Okay, he said he finally got a chance to ask Daryl McDavid, how did you know that I had the tape? And Daryl McDavid had told him, Lisa told me. That he said he received another call to come to Chicago from Milton Brown. He says he met Milton Brown before, and when he was Rob's assistant. He said he's seen him often. He was always there with Rob. When did you meet Daryl McDavid? He says he's seen Daryl McDavid at least once a week to pick up his per diem. He said Daryl McDavid was the one to give out the checks. He agreed to return the tape and go to Chicago. He said they flew him out in 2007. He did make copies, and he said, but wasn't a copy of the entire tape. He said he made about a 7 to 10 minute tape of the threesome. He said the only reason why he did that is because he didn't think that they would know the difference if he had made a copy or if he gave them the original. So he wanted to have a backup version in case anything happened. He wanted to give it to Rob, but he didn't see him and he couldn't get a hold of Rob. So before going, he said he met up with Charles. And Charles is a friend, also known as Chuck. He had known him since he was about 16 or 17 years old. He said he wanted to talk because he wanted to talk to him because Chuck was more of a street guy, and he would be able to give him some advice on like what should he do. He said, and this was before he went to Chicago. They said where was this meeting? This one before you went to Chicago. He said he don't recall where it was at. He said, but he gave Charles the video. Charles went to his office where he watched it. He said he came back to him about 15 minutes later. He said he didn't go upstairs with him in the office to watch it because he said, the car, the lights, the hazard lights was on the car downstairs. So I guess he was trying to say that the car was probably double parked or something and he couldn't leave it down there. Um, and then he says he had actually gave Charles the full version to go and watch. And when he came back, Charles gave it back to him. And he says, was it the same tape? Do you know if same tape? Yes, it was the same tape. Do you know if he made copies? And he said, well, I don't believe he did. After he returned, what did you do with the tape? He said, well, I took it back home and then traveled to Chicago. By plane, yes. What happened then? He says he don't remember who picked him up or how he got from the hotel. From the airport. So then he says he went to the hotel, was downtown. He met with the other individuals there, which was June Brown, Daryl McDavid, and the another guy, a taller guy. He said he was bringing back the tape. He said others that was there was Lisa and the lie detector guy too. The tall guy that he was speaking of that was there, they asked, did you know why he was there? He said no, but he did search me. What did you do with the tape? He said he gave it to Daryl McDavid. Did you see Rob there? No. Did you speak to Rob? No. And him and Lisa, he said Daryl McDavid and Lisa ended up going into a room to watch it. They watched probably about 10-15 minutes. He said he sat on the couch. There was an objection there because they were saying, okay, you can't, if you didn't go in the room with them, then you don't actually know what they went in there to do. They could have been in there talking. And he says, well, they said that they was going in there to watch the movie. To watch the video. So June, the lie detector test guy, and the tall guy, when they returned out of the room, where were they? He says, I don't remember. He says, I don't remember if I took the test before they seen the tape or after. So then they started showing him his polygraph consent forms, and he identifies his signature. He says he took the test. He didn't know the person that gave him the test. He was asked general questions. He said he did lie about making copies. He said he didn't believe that a lie detector test could really tell the truth. And he says that he failed. So then there was a break. After the break, they said, did you have any conversation with Daryl McDavid at that meeting? He said yes. What? He said he basically just said that I failed the test, and he showed me 2 bags of money, and he asked me where's the tape. He said what he asked me where's the tape. He gave me $20,000, and he told me to go home and get the tape. And he knew that. He said he knew that he was going to be paid that $20,000 prior to that meeting. So Daryl McDavid and Brown, there was an objection at that point, and then it was sustained. He said, so Daryl McDavid said that we weren't playing. And he said basically, they was basically saying when Daryl McDavid said we're not playing with you, what did you take that to mean? And he said, well, I just took that to mean that I came all the way up here and they had the money for me, but I didn't have the part that I said that I was gonna bring. So he felt like that's why they said that. So then he said, did they tell you why he gave you $20,000? He said, I'm giving you this so you will know that the rest will be here when you bring back the original. And he said he was told he would receive $100,000. And then there was an objection. Where did this understanding come from? Daryl McDavid had told me this over the phone. Did you accept that money? Yes. Was Lisa present? Yes. What was she doing? He said, well, I don't recall what she was doing then. And she received money also. He said, yeah, we both got $20,000. So what was the next step? I was to go home, get the original, come back. June was in the room when he said June was in the room when he got the 20,000. He don't remember what he had actually did with the money, where he spent it. Um, the copy that he gave to them, he said he don't know what he did with it. He don't know if he left it there or if he brought it back with him. The second trip was about a week and a half later. He said he flew back. He talked to June to make the arrangements. They said, "Did you bring the full-length video? And was that the only tape that you brought back?" He said, "Yes." He said a lady by the name of Patricia came back with him. Who paid for the ticket? He says Dora McDavid paid for the ticket. He said, "Why did you bring Patricia?" He said, "Because I knew I was coming back with a lot of money." And they asked, "Well, how did you think that she was going to help?" And he said, I really don't even know. I don't know." And so everyone started laughing in the courtroom. "When you arrived, where did you go?" He said, "To a hotel." "Did you pay for it?" "No." He said he met with June Brown because he had picked him up, and he picked him up from that hotel and took him to a different hotel. He said at that hotel, Daryl McDavid, and there was a lie detector test there. "Did you have a conversation with June?" He said, "Yes. June had told me that I had the golden egg." So he says, "And what did you take that to mean?" "That I had the tape and I was getting some money." He said, "I gave the tape to Daryl McDavid and I took the test." They're now showing consent for that lie detector test and showing that it's basically similar to the first test. Um, he basically just told them that he didn't make any more copies and he passed that test. He said he talked to Durham McDavid. Durham McDavid said thank you, gave him a hug, and he asked again, how did you know that I had this tape? And he said Lisa had told him that he had the tape. So he said at that point he had received the $80,000 cash in the bag. He left the meeting and returned to Kansas City. He said they actually gave him a driver, a BMW, to take him back to Kansas. He didn't know who the driver was. He said he really didn't know how he was going to be getting back, so because he didn't have a flight, a ticket back, so they provided him with the driver. "What did you do with all of that money?" He says, "I don't even remember what I did with it." And so he said he received a total of $100,000. Um, have you seen other videos of Rob having sex? And he said he's seen one that was being sold on the streets. He's seen one on the internet, and he's seen the one Charles had. And he said it was just on that video. It was just them two. I'm sorry, hold on. It was just them when he showed him the video. He said, what did he say about the video? He says he didn't recall. I'm sorry. They asked him, was it just them two when he showed you the video? He said he don't recall. What did he say to you about that video? He said he don't recall what was said or who was actually in that video. But it was Rob and one other person. Was it Lisa on it? No. It was in a living room. One scene was in a living room and another in a bedroom. And he said it was the same girl in both scenes, but he doesn't know who that was. There was an objection, and it was sustained. In 2008, he said he traveled to Chicago with Chuck. He said Chuck was having a meeting with Keith. He was going to a meeting with Keith, and he said what he wanted to do is he wanted to speak with Rob to let him know what was going on and what happened with the tapes and how he got it. He just wanted to tell him the whole shebang, but he never got the chance to talk to Rob. And then there was an objection. It said leading up to the trial, yes, did you ever go to the police with this info about the tape? He said no, because It just looked like a regular threesome to me. It just looked like a regular threesome. I had no reason to go to the police. Did you have a conversation? Now, this is the government questioning him. And he's telling them it looked like a regular threesome. Um, did you have a conversation with, shoot, I think with Charles after? He said, I don't remember. Did you, oh, Chuck, did you and Chuck discuss having a press conference together? He said, I didn't discuss a press conference. Do you recall if Chuck planned a press conference? Um, no. And then they had no further questions. And then McDavid came on, you guys. This one gets good. Okay. So McDavid says, you're friends with Chuck, correct? He said, yeah. He said, Chuck, keep it saying he's like a street guy. Yeah. You consider him a bit of a hustler? He said, yeah, maybe. He said, but Chuck was trying to get money from that press conference. And he said, oh, I don't know about that. Do you know about Lisa? Yes. You guys engaged in sex, correct? Yes. You wanted to keep it a secret from Rob? Yes. She sent you that money that she took from Rob, didn't she? Yes. She took that necklace? Yes. She sent it to you to get rid of? Yes. She said she wanted you to get money for it, correct? Yes. You didn't want to pawn that chain because you knew it was valuable, right? Yes. In terms of the video, she said that you needed a. She said, um, she said she had a sexually explicit tape. Yes. And you told her that you wanted to see it. Yes. And that's the real reason that she sent it to you, because you wanted to see the sex tape. He said yes. She didn't say she didn't say nothing about 3 scenes on the tape. No. She said it. You said that it looks like a regular sex tape with people having a threesome, correct? Yes. She didn't tell you not to watch it, right? No. She sent it so that I could watch it. That's why I wanted it. Yes. Mr. Freeman didn't see anything wrong with it either when he watched the video, right? Correct. There was only one scene on there, right? Yes. Just a threesome scene. Yes. Um, you were just excited because it was just I'm sorry, it was just a regular sex tape except it had a superstar in it, correct? Yes. Eventually Lisa told you that Rob will pay $250,000 for that tape, didn't she? Yes. She came up with it because it would be all about money. Yes. She raised the idea to collect the money. Yes. She called you and said they want it back and they're gonna give us $250,000 for this. Yes. You spoke to Daryl McDavid and it was clear money would be paid for that tape. Yes. You found out that he would pay it because you found out the reason Rob would pay the $250,000 is because he was on trial for another. No, I'm sorry, guys. You thought that he was willing to pay for that tape simply because he was already on trial for another tape. Yes. There was an original tape and then there was a second, which was a copy. He said, correct. I had a tape, but I put the copy on a CD, not a tape. It was a CD. This was the first time this first time is what you gave them. It was a CD that was 8 minutes long. At the location, when you went to the hotel and met with Daryl McDavid, the polygraph expert, and someone who you say searched you. Yes. You provided the CD to Daryl McDavid. Yes. Lisa and Daryl McDavid went into the other room. Yes. You don't know what they really went in the room to look at. That's when he said, well, Daryl McDavid said that they was going in there to look at the video. You took the polygraph and you failed. Yes. There was a situation where you had there was a situation where you had to tell them that you didn't bring the original. You got caught, and you got caught in lying. He didn't threaten you, did he? No. He gave you the $20,000 and told you to come back with the original, correct? He said if I didn't, yeah, but he said that if I didn't come, um, he said if I didn't come back, this guy right here, which was the big tall security guard guy, he said that he'd come see me, and he laughed. Um, Lisa was expected to come back as well, right? Yes. When you went to the grand jury, you had prepared your grand jury before you went to the grand jury, you had prepared your grand jury statement. This is a signed document. Are these your initials? Yes. Reading the statement. You said you went to the office building, not a hotel. You were interviewed by agents before the grand jury on July the 2nd, 2019. You said that you arrived at the office building. Durham McDavid Brown, the polygraph examiner, a big guy, and you expected to get $250,000 for that tape. At that meeting, do you recall an incident with Lisa crying? He said the very first meeting. Was she crying because she didn't want to? Was she crying? She was crying because you did not bring the original and you guys were not getting paid the full amount. He says yes. Not because Durham McDavid threatened her. He said no. Has she ever said to you that Durham McDavid threatened her prior to those Facebook messages? He says no. Or did you or did she tell you that he told her to sign a sworn statement saying that she did not sleep with Jane? No. So all of a sudden in 2018, you just started getting Facebook messages from her out of nowhere. He said, yes, I did. Then they continue talking about the Facebook messages, going over what was said on them. And he's agreeing to everything that they're saying about the Facebook messages. He says before this, you had never heard. So okay, so keep in mind the timeline. She said that this meeting happened in 2007. Okay, and she DMs him in October 24th of 2018. So 8 years. What is that? 11 years later. 11 years later, she DMs him about this incident. So they're saying before this, you had never heard of Daryl McDavid threatening her. Correct. You remember her crying because she didn't get all of her money. Correct. And in this text message, you say, wow, that's crazy. And that's because you had never heard her saying anything about the threats. He said, correct. And the Facebook messages, she started Facebook messaging you actually right before you went to go meet with the agents in July. And he said, yes. Then they talked about Lisa more crying. He says he actually, when he talked to the agents, told the agents the truth. She was not crying because she was threatened. She was crying because he did not bring the original tapes, and that stopped them from getting the whole $250,000. He said he was telling them that because she had never told me anything about a threat or anything like that. So you talked about a video with Chuck that Chuck had seen, and you talked about a video that Chuck had already seen on the internet. And then he says no. And then he says, are you sure? And then there was an objection. So then he says, the scenes that was on the video that Chuck showed you, you didn't see that on your tape. And he says, correct. You didn't hear anybody talking about no body parts or 14-year-old pussy. He said, correct. So during these conversations with Lisa, she ended up asking you for Chuck's phone number. Yes. She wanted to speak to him about the video. Yes. You told her You wasn't gonna speak on surviving R. Kelly. Yes. You told her to call Chuck because he'll love to get involved with a big story like that. He said yes. He said Chuck and Lisa would love to do stuff like that. That's what they do. And he said yes. July 2nd, 2019, the agent's interview. You said that Chuck was showing video clips of Rob on the floor and in a bedroom. Yes. And then there was an unknown female. Yes. You say here that this is what you had seen on the internet. Oh, yes. So he was reflecting his memory. Yes. Refreshing his memory. Um he said he didn't know where Chuck had got that tape from. So September the 5th, 2019, you gave a grand jury statement that said he said that he would need to see it because he didn't remember his statement, and then there was an objection. And then the judge says, I don't even know what y'all objecting to. And then McDavid's attorney says, I don't either, so let's just proceed. And so that's exactly what they did. They proceeded. And so he says, today you said that it was Durham McDavid that had called you. Yes. But when you gave the grand jury the statement, you said it was either Durham McDavid or June. And he said, yeah, I can't remember which one. He said, but he told me that he knew that I had the sex tape. And he said, but they both called me on different times. So you talked to the government yesterday. Yes. You talked about the calls. Yes. And today you say Durham McDavid called. And he said, well, I always meant to say Durham McDavid, but Brown had called too. He said, but you gave testimony say that I gave a tape to either Durham McDavid or June. But today you saying just Durham McDavid. He said, but I meant I gave it to Durham McDavid and Brown had picked me up. And so he said, okay, no, there was no further questions there. So then Bonjean came and cross-examined. Who introduced you to the idea of getting paid? He said, Lisa. Lisa said that you were shopping around the tape. He said, I played with her like that. I had always been telling her that. I always said stuff and I did that because I know that it kind of pissed her off, but I wasn't doing that. You never called Rob saying that you wanted any money. He said, no. He said, the money that she had told you to hold on to, she always had access to, right? Yes. And did she tell you she took that necklace? He says, yeah, I don't remember really. It was her idea to pawn it though. Yes. He said, but after I did that, she stopped trusting me. I can tell she didn't really trust me after because she didn't believe that the detective actually came into the pawn shop and told me that it was stolen. She thought that I was lying. And then Jennifer had no further questions. Then Brown cross-examined. Said during the first meeting, you and Lisa didn't go together. She was actually already there. You were told to go to the office building. Wasn't Brown picking you up? Wasn't it Brown that had picked you up? No, he didn't pick you up. He said, I really don't remember. Did he pick up Lisa? I don't recall. In your grand jury statement, you said that Brown was already there. Yes. So he couldn't have picked you up. He said, well, yeah, probably not. So let's talk about the people that's there. So Brown wasn't there, right? No, he was there. But he was waiting outside. Oh, I don't know. I just know that he was there. I have no reason to lie about that. So when Lisa said that she ran out crying to Brown because he was waiting in the car, was she lying? And he was saying if she said that, then she probably was lying. So, but there was an objection and it was overruled. So then that's when he said, he said, I didn't say that she was lying, but he said, so how was Brown in the car waiting for her and in the building at the same time? And he said, and well, if she stated that he wasn't in the building, then she was lying because he was in the building. You know Brown is Rob's assistant, correct? He said yes, and then they started asking. He does odd jobs, like jobs that assistants do. They asked, "Were you booking your own flights and things?" He said no. When you were in a group, were you booking your own flights and etc.? And he said no. He'd just get a call that this is your flight information and etc. So then Brown's attorneys had no further questions. So on redirect, because of course the government want to redirect on that to clear up their side. The government says you were asked about a meeting yesterday. Who was there at the meeting? He said my lawyers and you. This was the prosecutor that was asking the question. And they told you, did we tell you not to say Durham McDavid or June? He said no, wait. And what did we tell you? He says you guys told me not to say Durham McDavid or June, just say something different, I guess. And everybody started laughing at that. You had contact had with Lisa. At one point, did you and Lisa stop speaking? He said, yeah, we stopped speaking in 2007. And then they asked why. He said, well, she lived in Atlanta. I lived in Kansas. Sometimes things just happen and we just lose touch. And so they said, so after 2007, she wouldn't have been reaching out to you about what's happening in her everyday life or whatever, correct? And he said no. And then there was no further questions, and then we ended for the day. So the government witness, Keith Murrell, turned out to be a defense witness, so to speak. And I'm done, you guys. I am done. What y'all think? What you think, Tanya?
That was amazing.
When I tell y'all that it was such a good day, everybody that I was on the Kelly side was so excited. Jennifer, she came out. She was so happy. You could tell they was happy. They was hugging. It was a great day today. Today was a really good day. Like we was talking about, okay, when we finna start the celebration party. This is the reason. So this is just my reason. I think that's why she wanted to leave, because I feel like she might have tried to contact him after her testimony, and he probably told her, no, I'm gonna get up there and tell the truth. I'm not saying nothing different. And she knew he was gonna throw her under the bus today, and she just didn't want that smoke. She did not want to face that heat, so she's like, I'm getting out of here. So I'm like, if you telling the truth, my thing is, if you telling the truth, I'm not finna risk prosecution and try to leave and not stay here and just finish. It was only one more person that had to cross-examine you. So it was a little bit more. And Jennifer did point that out because, mind you, when they had told us about that, the jury wasn't in the room. So when the jury did come in, she made it her business to point that out to them that she tried to leave. She said that she was tired. She said she had been there all week and she was just over it. Let me see. You see any questions on that? Yeah, you guys have any other questions? Anything? Let me go back and see.
I didn't see any questions.
I like how he said that Durham. So okay, just to sum up what the defense was trying to do, the defense was saying, I forgot I had tea. The defense was saying Lisa sent those Facebook messages when she wanted to tell him basically parts of what she was telling the government or whoever she was talking to, and so that when he went in there to talk to them, he would be able to basically co-sign on what she was saying. That he would say, oh yeah, she was crying because Durham McDavid threatened her. But when in actuality, they're saying to her, if that was the case, why didn't you tell the person that you came with, your trusted friend, the one you trusted so much with that tape? Why would you tell June Brown but not tell him? And she said her reason for not telling her friend is because she was just too hysterical. But she wasn't hysterical enough to stop and tell June Brown. And he confirmed that's not the reason she was crying. She was crying because I did not bring the original tape and we didn't get all of our money.
Someone said, do you think it's enough to... Someone said, do you think it's enough? Mute your phone.
Huh?
Mute your...
Okay.
Someone said, do you think it's enough to be conspiracy?
It was definitely a conspiracy. They talked about, okay, number one, Jane talked about in her testimony. Tomorrow, you guys, I'm gonna do a whole recap of the week. I'm gonna just put together all the PowerPoints from this week. But Jane testified that Lisa was trying to contact her. Today, Bonjean pointed out that Lisa was also trying to contact someone by the name of Alina, which was another person she had a threesome with Rob with. Then she contacted Chuck. She contacted Keith. So yes, it was a conspiracy, and she sounds like she was the mastermind behind it. Let me see. His reaction was pretty much the same as what it was today. Everybody was feeling good. I mean, he can't show no reactions too much, but I'm pretty sure he was feeling good about it. And how this went, how this played out. Wait, so she took the tape because she didn't want Rob, but the whole world. So she even changed. So Jennifer kept stressing it. This was yesterday too. If you took a tape because you don't want the whole world to see it, you don't want nobody to have it, why did you not destroy that tape? I personally feel that's going to have a big input when it's time to deliberate that. Because if that's your reasoning, anybody in their right mind, if it's something that you never want to get out, you're going to destroy it. You're not going to save it. What are you saving it for? And you're going to risk the chance of somebody finding it some type of way and it coming out. That makes no sense. But then when she went back and she said, well, I took it because I didn't want to have the threesomes in the first place because I didn't want to share him. But yesterday you were saying you took it because you just didn't want him to be having it. You didn't want him to be able to see you in that situation. Then you have more than she can count of threesomes with women on there. So that bag was probably full of her tapes, but you only took one. Something don't sound right. Okay, so answer that. Again, this is all my opinion, you guys. I'm not saying this to be facts. I'm just, from what I'm hearing, that's my opinion. She wanted him. I'm just wondering, when did she... Well, no, I'm not. Because if you go into this situation and you lie about your age, you tell that first lie the first time you met him, then I don't need to know when you decided to conspire against him. It started as soon as you met him. Probably started on the way to the video shoot. Yeah, that Lolo, she is taking a stand, huh? She wasn't fine. They said for like what, 3 years or so. It took her 3 years to remember that she was actually 18 and not 17. They asked what? I don't know, you guys. I do not. I can't stress that enough. I do not pay attention to the jury. I'm not doing anything to get kicked out of that courtroom or anything like that. You do not want to play with that case. They mean business. I don't know nothing about the jury. I give you my thoughts and what I would be thinking if I was sitting there, even if I didn't know this case, or even if if I wasn't a supporter or whatever, what my thoughts is just from hearing this information, just from using common sense. So other than that, I don't know. I don't know what they thinking, their expressions. I don't know. So the original tape. Is it? This stuff's going so fast. Appears every. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. She didn't know the code. Okay, so that's the point that they made today. The video that they had was not a video of her talking about the age of her body part. That's what Keith testified to. That was not what was said in the video um that she sent to him, and she's saying she would have known that before she sent the video, because she said that Jane had made a comment about her getting it had already been a year or so into their relationship, because they had a threesome once every year, according to her. So at one point, Jane had made a comment saying she was getting a PT Cruiser for her 16th birthday. That's when she found out. So she knew before she supposedly sent that tape up. Sweet One said her testimony from today versus yesterday versus what she said in multiple interviews are all contradicted. Everything is different. And again, they stressed. Chuck looked at that videotape of that threesome, and Keith on the stand said when he looked at it, he didn't see anything wrong with the video that would concern him and make him want to report the video. So they took that as saying that's because there was no underage girl in the video. It was another woman, not an underage girl. So that's why he said he didn't even, that's why he showed it off, because it just looked like a regular threesome with Lisa, Rob, and another woman. His testimony he was very, very credible. I would say that. He told the truth. He even told the truth in places where it may have looked bad on the defense, but he told the truth more so in places where it hurt the government, in my opinion. She received $20,000, and then 1 minute she said when she went back she received 50,000, but I'm guessing it was 50 because Keith received 80, so her total that she got was $70,000. It seemed like you got to remember she was there from the 90s, so everybody that's being brought into play was around that same time, so she probably was calling up everybody. I knew it had to be somebody that knew who he was with and who he was around to be able to go back and contact all these people to bring them out. Is that some more comment? I mean, some more questions? Right. Lolo said these videos still haven't been authenticated and the chain of custody is still an issue, especially since we've been hearing VHS, and it took Keith to tell us, no, it wasn't a VHS. I actually transferred it to a CD. Tanya, is there anything that you wanted to know? Or anything that I
said? No. I was reading the tweets as they were coming in, and I'm like, I know they're not giving all the details from what is actually being said, because um this last guy, Keith, that testified, I was thinking, now, is everybody purposely in this case trying to throw it in Rob's favor? I don't know. It just seems odd that everybody is lying. It's not odd, but just it's like everybody's lying. He said he converted it from a VHS tape to a CD, and he only did 8 minutes of scenes. Could it possibly be that maybe that adult woman on there was? I mean, for some reason I keep going back to the wife.
He said he only did that because he only did 8 minutes worth, because he didn't know if they had seen. He figured they don't know what's on this video, so I'm just gonna send them this little part, because he says it was only about 10-15 minutes total. So he did about 8 minutes of it, and he said, "Well, I'm just gonna copy this little 8 minutes, and I'm gonna get that to them," because he said he figured they wouldn't know if it was the original or not. And then he knew he was taking a lie detector test, but he said he didn't believe that lie detector tests can actually tell if a person was telling the truth or not. So he kind of messed himself up. But that's the reason why he did that. But he said, yeah, and he said on that tape, on that particular tape he had, there was only a threesome. Now Lisa said that there was 3 scenes on that tape, but there wasn't 3 scenes. There was 1 scene. The tape Chuck had the other 2 scenes, but the one Chuck was looking at, Keith said he seen that tape too, because Chuck showed it to him, and or the tape Chuck had, and he said even in that he didn't he didn't think nothing wrong, because he said one of them he had already seen on the internet, and it didn't look like, oh, this a little girl on here, I better take this to the police. I'm just rephrasing it, but so that's why he said he just thought he'd keep that original tape just in case. He said just in case, I guess he didn't get money or something, or they didn't get the money. I'm not even sure that she didn't tell him, don't give them that original tape, make a copy, make it like this, so that just in case. Because I'm gonna be honest, he didn't seem all of that, you know, to be setting anybody up or anything like that, or to be trying to extort anyone. And he also said that when he came to Chicago the very first time, he wanted to contact Rob to make sure he knew what was going on with that tape.
And so, pause for a second. And so, in my opinion, him getting out there in front of Rob and seeing him, like, he didn't testify in the first trial. So for him to actually sit in front of Rob, and now he's got to tell the truth because he's looking at somebody he said he idolized, or he really, since Rob is a big celebrity or whatever, I guess he just felt like, maybe I need to go ahead and tell the truth, because and none of this stuff, Rob is nowhere around.
The first trial wasn't about Lisa Van Allen, so he had no reason to testify.
It was about the tape, though, right?
It was about the tape that Sparkle leaked.
So we're talking about.
Yeah. So, oh shit, hold on, you guys. Yeah, it was a different tape. The one that we talking about, the one that was 2008, is allegedly Jan and Rob in the log cabin by themselves. So that's a different tape. Lisa Van Allen was not involved in that tape. That was leaked. Remember, now that's where Sparkle, Jim Derogatis, and them come in at.
This is all crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't need to testify there. That's the reason she claims that she did not tell them that she had a tape of herself and Jane and Rob, and then there were other 2 scenes on the tape that she had of Jane and Rob. She says, I didn't tell them that because they didn't ask me. That trial wasn't about me. That was her reason.
It's all too trifling and confusing.
Kayla, he looked really good. He looked good. Today was a really good day. Um, she wasn't the star witness. She actually wasn't the star witness. She was more like a character witness for stuff. She hadn't even told them about her tape. She was actually her whole testimony was impeached in that trial. Remember, okay, so you guys remember in that trial, she was only a part of that trial because she was still carrying that lie that she was 17 years old. So at 17 years old, they look at you as a victim. So just like they're calling all of, or in New York, they called all of those other girls to testify about their relationships. It was just to basically co-sign what the accusers were saying. That's kind of what she was. Uh, I wonder if that's why she tried to leave too. Did she feel like they will take her immunity deal or something because of that? Because of what she was saying and what Keith got up there and testified to. Mm. Mimi, at this point, I don't know how many tapes there is. So this in this trial, they have two tapes, four different scenes total. The first trial, 2008, different tape. So it's in the opening statements. I think it was the opening statements, but they said no, it wasn't. It was a questioning. The government didn't even go. They were questioning one of the agents, and I think she was responsible for investigating this particular trial. And she said that she didn't actually go back to the 2008 trial to see the tape or look at the tape that was in question back then. So they were telling her, so you don't even know if the tape that you had, if the obstruction charge that you're charging him for is even the same tape that was used back in 2008. That's why I'm gonna try to do that recap, me and Tanya, tomorrow for you guys, because I know it's confusing.
Yeah, I got to take some notes tonight.
So they can't even say for sure. Spitting fire. So as of today, the tapes that Keith has seen and say that they had in their possession, he says he did not see anything irregular about it. He did not see nothing suspicious. He basically said when he watched the tape, he had no reason to want to alert the authorities because it looked like a regular sex tape, a threesome, Rob, Lisa, and another woman having sex. Lisa was performing oral on on the girl, and then they both did it to Rob. So he said he's seen no reason. All right, y'all. But they're in. Okay, why would they give immunity without the original? She has yet to say she. They gave her immunity in 2008. That's why she wasn't arrested. Then when they just impeached her um her testimony, so she got immunity with the feds too then, but she had already had immunity back in 2008, and she got immunity out of Missouri too. So she had immunity in Missouri, Chicago, and if I don't know, I don't think they mentioned it, but if she lived in Georgia, I would say Georgia too. they were talking about the tape. They were discussing the 2008 tape, but the tape that they showed in court was not the tape from 2008. It was the tapes that Lisa turned over to the government in 2019. Did they ask Keith if there was any sound on the tape? They didn't. They didn't. Okay, so they didn't say was there. Well, they didn't say was there any sound on the tape, but he did testify that on the tapes he heard no one saying nothing about the age of their body part. So I guess there was sound on the tape, and that wasn't said. And like I said, remember, no, I said, just all right. I don't see any other different questions. Right. It didn't make sense to give it to Keith. Thank you, Piece in the Puzzle. To my understanding, Lisa, after Nikki Michelle, Lisa would say that she's a minor, because you get, well, one, what the defense said yesterday, saying that she was a minor would get her included into the indictments, and what I've learned that if you're a minor and he's convicted in these cases, you get restitution. So that may have been certain reasons. Kayla, you got put on a timeout. I'm sorry. I don't know. What was your question? You can ask if you're still here. You can ask it before I log off. Um, they did. They said it in opening statements that it was Drea that was actually on that tape, and that's why Rob was paying to get it back. He didn't want any tapes of his wife out there, which is understandable. Daddy, does Robert have to prove why or the motive? No, because it's not his job to prove his innocence. It's the process. It's the government's job to prove his guilt. He said she's a runner. She's a track star. So if he wins this, how are they going to give? How they going to give him back his credibility? That's a good question. I don't know. I, I, I still want to know what a 42-minute video is at. 42 minutes. Well, okay, that's another thing. They proved today that in order to get on that video shoot, you had to be 18. You had to be 18 to get on there. So, and she was actually in that video. So she had to come there and prove that she was 18 to even get on the set. Then she says that he asked would her mother allow her to come, and she actually wasn't even living with her mother at that time. Well, she says that she was, but then they showed that she had made statements. I don't know if it was on interviews or not, that she was actually homeless. So they were asking, so why would you need the consent of your mother? You weren't even living with your mother then. They were like, wait, what did he say? They said, I one cool P. Yep, I'm from Chicago. Yep, born and raised. She did say that she was homeless. Yeah. What are the key facts? Oh, oh yeah, Lolo, I did. I said that in the midst of her doing her crying, her crying spell. She said, I thought she was 17. She was 17 when I met her. Yep, she sure did. Um, the so they they can't use this in the appeal for New York because it's a totally different trial, and the 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 paperwork and everything for that has already been submitted. So he said we can still step y'all. Well, that's good because I can't. But she said yesterday she thought she was 16. Right. And Bonjean asked her, well, if you say you thought she was 16 and you say you were 18 and y'all 4 years apart, then that would have made you 20, not 18, right? So she got caught up there too. Uh, yeah. Was this that K baby? Yep, that's a credible witness. I will definitely say so. I'm gonna leave this live up. I am. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to charge them for the tape that they have now. No, if they well they are. That's the receiving of child pornography. The what? Hold on, that's what I'm gonna do. Give me a second. Just give me that little book. So I'm finna. That's a good question. Are they gonna charge him for that? Cause Tanya, talk for a second while I find this, please.
Pause your phone because can y'all hear me? How many more witnesses the government has? I think the government has the last two or three minors. Don't know. I just know the other minors have not testified. Lisa Van Allen said she would order food for Keith and the guys, so that's how she was able to use Rob's credit card. She was getting room service, she said.
And she said that the charge, when they build it, she always seen Base Productions as who they build, and because they were asking her, so who you think was paying for all that, and she said Base Productions, and they said, well, who you think owned Base Productions, and she's like, I don't know. So that was a lie. And then it was what question? What did you just say? Because I was finna say something about right before that. What did you say, Tanya?
You talking about was I the question I was reading?
Did you say something else about Jane?
No, I didn't. We were looking for some. I think someone in there.
Oh no, you were talking about the minors. There's 4 minors that's going to be testified.
Oh yeah.
So the charges is again, there's 13 counts. Charges 1 through 4 they relate to those videos. Charges 5 is for David David, what's his name? Durrell McDavid and Kelly. That's the conspiracy to construct justice and by concealing the videos. The charge 6 is all 3 are being charged with this, and it's the conspiracy to receive child pornography. 7 and 8 is just Kelly and David, and it's the actual receiving of the child pornography. So count 7 is we're talking about video that has scenes 2 and 3, and then count 8 is video four, that has scene four. Now, keep in mind, while we haven't talked about it, they do not have the video that contains scenes four. All they have is testimony about that video. They don't have it. So that's why in court, you only heard the video. Well, we only heard the video with her referencing the age to her body parts. There was no video of the threesome because they do not have it. Count 9 is about enticing and coercing Jane to engage in sex. Count 10 is the same thing, enticing. That's Nia. Count 11 is same thing, Tracy. Count 12 is Pinky, and count 13 is Brittany. So count 11, they already opened the doors and stuff for that today. Their witness that was supposed to testify that she was 16, that actually got shut down, and come to find out she was 17. In the state of Illinois, the age of consent is 17. So I don't know how that's gonna go, if she's gonna come and give them evidence on how she was actually 16 or not. I don't know. Tracy hasn't testified yet. I'm assuming that she's next. So I hope that helped. I forgot who asked that question. Did they mention Lisa having to be brought into the jury? Queen, what do you mean? Did they mention Lisa having to be brought in to the jury? Government try to make a lie truth mean more time to try to sell the jury on their lies. Yep. Tracy, Pinky, Brittany. So the host with that is, have they proved that other than Jane saying that it is her on the tape, have they proved that she's telling the truth about that? So you have to wonder if they believe that. Now that's the only thing. The birth years of the minors. Yes. Hold on. It's gonna stand out when I see it. This. Hold on, because I got two notebooks sitting here. I'm praying that the answer to that question is in the one that I went to. I know. Hold on. Go ahead, Tanya.
Three more witnesses left. So I can say it's me. Yeah. So how are they gonna charge Casey? Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say I didn't find. So somebody had asked me for the years of the births for the other four girls. If I don't find it, I'll have it tomorrow because we're gonna do a recap tomorrow. So I'll make sure I answer that. That'll be. I'll make a reminder tonight because this is a lot of. I got a lot of pages to go through, and right now I don't even feel like I'm seeing straight.
Yeah, you need to go to bed.
I feel like, listen, all this look like gibberish to me right now. All right. Okay.
Let's answer that last question tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow. Since everybody asking about the next four people that's testifying, yeah, we'll answer all the questions about them tomorrow. So we can do it all in one video. All right. All right, you guys. So
The Spitfire said, didn't Lisa say she introduced?
Huh?
What it?
Yes, Spitting Fire, she did. She said that they were in LA and Rob had asked her if he could have his first threesome with her. And she said she decided that she wanted to go ahead and give that to him because um for some reason she thought that it was she said because he had been molested as a child by his sister and she just felt for him. And she said, oh, we connected with that because I had been molested too. So that was her reason. She said she went ahead and did it because she didn't want to do it, but she did it for him. So,
So there's also pause real quick.
huh?
Mute real quick.
Oh, okay.
There's also someone I saw today. It's a dark skinned girl. I don't know who she was. It was just I just briefly saw the video on the Breakfast Club where she said that Lisa Van Allen used to be a prostitute. They were uh, prostitutes together. I'll have to pull that video up.
Oh yeah, you gotta pull that up. That's crazy. It's just getting more and more interesting every day. So, all right, you guys. Well, I'm gonna say good night. Somebody asked what time tomorrow. What do you think is a good time? Not too early. Maybe Saturday. Uh, what you think, Aya?
I don't know. I have to go work my business tomorrow, so I have a couple of clients in the morning, so maybe midday tomorrow, 2, 3.
Yeah, I was thinking so probably about 3 o'clock Central Time, you guys. That'll probably be perfect. And I just seen that comment. So she gave him a threesome because he was molested. I thought the same thing. That was kind of an odd reason to want to go ahead and give somebody a threesome. Um, yeah, I thought the same thing. But that's what but that's what she said. So I'm just telling you that was what her answer was. But so about 3 o'clock tomorrow, you guys, we're gonna do a recap of from Monday or from Friday to this Friday. Okay. Oh, thank you, one cool P. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. Well, you guys have a good night. Have a good night. If y'all come back tomorrow and you got any questions, just write them down tonight and have them for us while we recapping.
Good
Okay.
night.
Have a good night. Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, good night.
Love you, sis. Have a good night.
Love you too. Bye bye.